Welcome to an episode of Kelsey's Kitchen. I am very excited because I am going to be showing you how to make my all-time favorite food on this entire planet, sauerkraut. Yes. It's really super easy, and I actually started culturing my vegetables last year, and I've just noticed such an amazing health result. I feel so good when I consume my cultured vegetables. I do it on a daily basis. I absolutely love cultured vegetables, and if you're someone who maybe doesn't like sauerkraut or doesn't think you like sauerkraut because of the ones that you had at the store, or maybe you're used to having it on a bratwurst at a baseball game, well, you have to try this because this is an entirely different taste, flavor. It's amazing, and once you start consuming cultured vegetables and cultured foods, your body actually starts craving it. So we're going to jump right in. I am going to start by thinly slicing a head of organic green cabbage. You can use any cabbage. You can use red cabbage if you like. But for this recipe, I'm using green cabbage because that's what they had at the store. And the amazing thing about cabbage is it actually is really high in sulfur. And when you ferment sulfur, it actually converts into vitamin U. And studies are showing that it may help reduce the risk of cancer. You can be fighting cancer as you're eating your yummy sauerkraut, which is awesome. It's also really detoxifying when you consume cabbage, especially raw cabbage. The thing about raw cabbage though, and really for all cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and even Brussels sprouts, is they do have an outer cellulose, and it's called a glycogen. And that glycogen actually can deplete your body of a particular nutrient called iodine, and that's really critical for thyroid function. So you don't want to be consuming a large amount of just raw cabbage without fermenting it, because the fermentation process not only enhances the nutrients in the cabbage, but it also reduces and takes away some of that outer cellulose, reducing the glycogens in the cabbage, which is awesome. Or you can lightly steam them, and that will take away all of the glycogens in the broccoli, the cabbage, the Brussels sprouts. But the thing with steaming and heating our foods is when you heat any food, it actually takes away and strips it of all of the enzymes, and it'll start to kill the nutrients. So for me, I know I really like to eat mostly raw vegetables. I like to eat as many raw vegetables as I can. I don't like to cook a lot of my food because I want those enzymes. It does help the body digest it. It helps it break it down easier. So what I've done here is I've chopped the cabbage, and I'm going to put it in this big bowl. Now, if you have a cabbage shredder, that's actually very helpful if you want your cabbage maybe sliced a little bit thinner than I have here. A cabbage shredder is really nice for that. If not, you can just use a knife like I did. And I'm going to then add my onion, and I love onion. Onion and garlic is like my favorite. Okay, and I'm going to just put them in here. Onions are also really high in sulfur, which means that when you ferment the onions and the cabbage, you have even more vitamin U and even more of that fermented sulfur, which is just amazing. This recipe and this sauerkraut here is so detoxifying to the body. And no matter if you're already a healthy person or if you are dealing with a sickness, everyone needs to detox. We live in a toxic world. We live in toxic environments. No matter where we're at, you could be eating the healthiest diet on earth, but you're still bombarded with toxins because of our environment. So it is so important to be able to cleanse on a daily basis, and not only do certain cleanses and detoxes and fasts, but also cleanse with the food you're eating. That is probably the most important thing you can do for your body. So I have a food processor here, and what I did was I took these organic carrots, and I get the large carrots because I like them, and I do. And I actually leave the skin on because the skin of the carrot, and you might see some grime or dirt. If it's organic, leave the skin on. It actually has B12 because the soil contains B12. So it's extra benefits to not washing your organic vegetables. Now that might sound gross, and you can do whatever you want, but I'm telling you, for me, I don't wash my organic produce because I want that B12 to stay on there. So I'm going to take the carrots, and it's a personal preference to, pulse them in a food processor. You certainly don't have to. I just like it when my carrots are really nice and finely chopped or pulsed. I don't know why, but I just do. You can chop them up, you can have them nice and chunky. Really, it's your preference on how you want your carrots to be chopped or sliced or whatever, or pulsed. You don't have to do what I'm doing, but I just prefer it. And then I'm going to add some of this real salt. That's the brand name. It's called Real Salt. You can find it at Whole Foods, Woodman's, grocery stores are even starting to sell them now. It's a really popular salt brand because it is unheated and unbleached. You don't want it to be white. If your salt is white, even if it says sea salt, it means it has been bleached and processed and heated, and you don't want that. Salt has actually many, many, many benefits and many minerals. Salt's gotten a bad rap over the years because of sodium, and certainly we as Americans consume way too much sodium. But the problem is not our real salt. It's all of the processed foods and all of the MSG and the spices that have been messed with and genetically modified and all that. That's where we're getting that excess sodium. But if you take all of that away and you use real salt, you can actually be getting a lot of benefits. And also, sodium isn't necessarily bad. I think that a lot of people think it's bad. The overconsumption of sodium is what we need to worry about, and the underconsumption of potassium. Potassium and sodium are critical for cell health and really for the health of our bodies. Sodium is the electrolyte that drives nutrients into the cell, and potassium is the electrolyte that drives waste out. So when you have both of them balanced in proper amounts and proper ratio, you can actually, your body will actually function even better. You just have to make sure your sodium comes from a source like natural, unheated salt. You can also use Celtic sea salt or Himalayan salt. Those are also good. Just as long as they're not processed, they're not bleached, and they're not white. It's a good salt. So I put about a tablespoon, and you probably have noticed I don't really measure because I don't. It's a head of cabbage, an onion. I probably will be adding another onion in because I love onion. And then I put about 10 carrots in the food processor and I pulse them. And then I put about a tablespoon of the salt on there. And the reason why you'd want to add salt to your sauerkraut is because it not only preserves it and keeps from growing mold, but it also draws out all of the juices and the health benefits from the cabbage. All of those juices in there, it draws them out. And once that's all drawn out, you're going to want to keep the sauerkraut juice and actually use that to help ferment your vegetables. So don't throw away your sauerkraut juice or your cabbage juice after the water has been drawn out. I am actually going to kind of stir this up and rub the salt in, and I probably will let this bowl sit for about 6 hours in order to draw out all of the water. And once I do, this bowl will be, you see it's pretty full. It'll probably be half of what it is right now because all of the water is, most of it anyway, is drawn out, which is good. That's what you want. And after you have drawn out all of the water from your vegetables, you will then put it in a jar like I have here, or if you have a crock, fermenting crock, you can put it in there too, but I don't, so I just use mason jars as well. It's really important to be able to cover your sauerkraut and your vegetables with a liquid, and preferably we use cultured whey. And there's a couple reasons that we use cultured whey to start and to ferment our vegetables in. One being, cultured whey is amazing for its many health benefits. It's high in B vitamins. It's also a great source for potassium. And in our American culture today, we get way too much sodium and not enough potassium. And potassium is what drives waste out of the cells, as we mentioned earlier. So that is one reason why I love to use the cultured whey as my probiotic starter, and that's why I like to ferment my vegetables in it. It also gives it a good flavor, really helps start your vegetables so they actually ferment quicker. And so that's why I preferably like to use cultured whey. You can also use apple cider vinegar and water, and you'd put a couple tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in a jar like this, so about 4 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and then you would pour water until it covered the top of your vegetables in this jar. Like I said, that's an option. You can do that. I really love to use the cultured whey because of its many health benefits, and of course the potassium. You can also use terrain living herbals, and that is amazing. It's like an herbal cider vinegar, is what it's been described as. Terrain living herbals is by the company Beyond Organic, and that is the same company I order my cultured whey from. You order it online and it comes directly to you, but I really like to use the terrain living herbals because apple cider vinegar is awesome, but this is apple cider vinegar times 10. The benefits of the terrain living herbals is amazing. It does taste a little bit vinegary, although it is not a vinegar. It has 15 different strains and species of probiotics. And then there's different kinds of terrain, so you could use a garlic or like an oregano terrain to ferment your vegetables in, and it kind of give it a garlic or oregano kind of flavor. And you do 4 tablespoons of the terrain with in this jar, and then you pour the rest either with water, or you can also pour the rest with cultured whey until it covers the top. So that is how I make my sauerkraut. You cut up your vegetables, you put it in a jar, in a bowl, and then you put a tablespoon or 2 of salt over it, let the water draw out, and then you pack it into a jar and pour liquid of your choice over the top. And then you generally let your vegetables ferment for about a month. That's what I usually do, or I try to do them anyway. But you can do it for a shorter amount of time. You can even do it for 3 days to a week. It just depends on what you want your flavor to taste like. So that is it. It's very simple, very basic. If you have any more questions about benefits of culturing vegetables, or perhaps maybe you'd like to see another video showing you how to ferment pickles or even make other recipes, definitely leave comments below, and we'll see you next time.